Good evening and welcome to a summary of the news. Interior Minister Salami Hamad said the numerous challenges facing Jordan, coupled with the situation in the region, place a mounting pressure on the kingdom's political, economic and security system, and this requires increased effort to halt any possible repercussion on people's daily lives. Hamad was speaking at a meeting of the Madaba Governorate Security Council in the presence of Director of the Public Security Department, Major General Ataf Saudi, and Director General of the Gendarmerie Department, Major General Hussein Hawatmi. Without security, we cannot achieve development, he said, hailing the sacrifices of security personnel and the good citizens of Jordan, safeguarding internal security and countering the agendas of outlaws. Separately, Hamad met with a delegation of citizens and dignitaries of the Ban, where it was agreed to bring a peaceful end to the latest events in the district and ordered the release of detainees who were arrested during violent riots over the past days. While prospects of work opportunities in the private sector were presented to those unemployed who took part in the recent protests, Hamad outlined a number of government projects in the pipeline that will create job opportunities for the Ban citizens. Residents and people of Madaba demonstrated full support of Jordan's army and security forces in a solidarity sit-in late yesterday. Senate Speaker Faisal Faiz joined the sit-in in the city, where he renewed condemnation of the terror attacks that targeted security personnel in Al-Baqa refugee camp and a military post on the Syrian border. He said our army and security will remain steadfast and the shield that protects the country against any cowardly attempt to shake its internal stability, expressing pride in the heroic sacrifices of the army and security personnel. Over to Iraq, where leader of Hashd al-Sha'bi forces, Hadi al-Amiri, fighting Daesh in Fallujah, said the forces are making good progress but need to ensure certain areas are liberated before making an official announcement. In a radio broadcast, he said in the next 2 days, the complete liberation of the city will be announced. However, he noted that the area between Amariyat al-Fallujah, Halabsa and Ziwaya must be liberated first, and when this happens, Fallujah would be fully recaptured. Mosul would be next, he added. Somalia's base Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab extremist group launched a suicide bomb attack on a hotel in the center of the capital, Mogadishu, before storming inside. Police said the attack on the Nasa Hablod Hotel began when a suicide bomber detonated an explosives-laden vehicle at its gate, and shortly afterwards the terrorists fought their way inside, shooting randomly at hotel guests. At least 15 people, including civilians and hotel guards, were killed and more than 20 wounded. Two of the attackers were killed. Al-Shabaab group frequently carries out attacks in the capital in its bid to topple the Western-backed government. One day after the majority of the British people voted to exit the European Union, the founding EU members asked the UK for a quick divorce. The members, meeting in Berlin at the invitation of German Chancellor Angela Merkel, say the process of Britain's departure must begin as soon as possible. Merkel, however, struck a more conciliatory tone, saying the negotiations must take place in a business-like good climate. Here's more.
Let's make this divorce quick and easy. That's the clear message to the UK from the 6 founding members of the European Union, meeting in Berlin after Britain's shock vote to exit the 28-member bloc. They're eager to shore up the EU for its other 27 members, and they're calling on Britain to trigger Article 50 of the EU treaty to set the process for exit in motion. German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier.
We are in agreement that this process should begin as soon as possible and not left in limbo, so that we can concentrate on the future of Europe and working on that.
The problem is only Britain can invoke Article 50. Luxembourg Foreign Minister Jean Asselborn, like his French counterpart, is warning the UK not to draw out the process.
I hope that we don't play a cat and mouse game here. That absolutely doesn't suit Great Britain.
In a joint statement, the 6 foreign ministers called Britain's vote to leave a regrettable turning point for Europe. French President François Hollande echoed that sentiment, saying the exit will be painful for Britain.
Britain's representative on the EU executive in Brussels, Financial Services Commissioner Jonathan Hill, resigned after having campaigned against the British exit from the European Union. European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker said he had accepted Hill's decision with regret after failing to convince him to stay on. Hill said he was disappointed by the vote and would ensure a handover before leaving on July 15th. From July 16th, his job will be handled by Valdis Dombrovskis, the Latvian Commissioner and Vice President for the Euro. Meanwhile, Londoners who voted to stay in the European Union gathered in Parliament Square to share their sorrow at the country voting to leave in yesterday's referendum. Some of the disappointed participants were still wearing their in-campaign T-shirts, while others were draped in EU flags and holding placards reading "Yes to EU." In another move, over 1 million people signed an online petition calling for a second referendum on EU membership. Under British Parliament rules, once a petition gains over 100,000 signatures, it will be considered by a parliamentary committee. Thousands of visitors walked on water when they visited Bulgarian-born artist Christo's latest art installation, The Floating Piers, on Lake Iseo in Italy. Visitors experienced the 4.5-kilometer walkway made up of floating pontoons covered in 70,000 meters of iridescent orange-yellow fabric. Since its opening a week ago, 500,000 people had visited the floating piers, which took years of planning and cost $17 million. It will run for 2 weeks. Christo has completed some 23 installations, including the wrapped Reichstag in Berlin, where he wrapped the German parliament in silvery foil, and the gates in New York Central Park, where vinyl gates were planted along 37 kilometers of pathway.
Cortesemente allontanatevi dall'acqua per piacere.
The Colombian capital, Bogota, played host to a unique fashion show featuring clothing from designer Miguel Caballero that is not just ready to wear, but ready for anything. The show featured sleek looks that subtly include bulletproof lining and armor. The clothing was inspired by designs from across the globe. Airy shirts from the Caribbean and casual tunics from the Middle East were among the items that have been retrofitted to protect against danger. The line, including male and female wear, is being targeted for heads of state, business leaders, and security workers. And finally, hot and dry conditions are in the forecast for tomorrow as the kingdom remains under the impact of the heat wave that started last week. Winds will be northwesterly moderate to brisk, blowing dust in the desert areas. Temperatures in Amman will reach a high of 38 degrees Celsius, while in the Gulf of Aqaba it will hit 43 degrees. That's all for tonight. Have a pleasant evening.